to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Guns, self-defense, concealed carry. This is the Patriot Defense Podcast. From the war room in Idaho's high desert, here's your host, Todd Echols.
And I am back once again. It is a Monday afternoon, and I am tucked away. I've totally forgot my own intro. It is Monday afternoon, and I am tucked away in the war room somewhere in the high desert of southern Idaho. That was weird. I must need to do the podcast more often. I don't know. It is what it is. This is Monday. I was supposed to do this thing yesterday, and I got busy with family. Went up to the mountains. It's kind of the ongoing theme for the summer, and I don't know that I really care. So I'm here on Monday doing the podcast instead. What do I got for you today? Well, I've got just kind of a big deal that I wanted to talk about. But first, we always start by talking about what's going on here at Patriot Defense as far as classes are concerned. So what is going on? I just had a permit class on Saturday. There's 13, 14 people in that class, so it was a decent sized class for what it's been. So I do appreciate that. I was excited about that. Everyone, like I say this all the time. I feel like I say this all the time. Everyone, they were pretty good shooters. We had a couple of newer people in there that had just were just getting into firearms, and they did an absolutely fantastic jobs. Literally no complaints with that class. I have a defensive pistol dynamics class coming up in a few weeks. I have got, not this weekend, I have a race I have to go run this weekend, but the next weekend I want to say it's like 14, actually it's 2 classes. But it's for the same group of people. We divided them from women into men, and I have 14, I believe, probation officers that every year before they go and have to do their qualifications, they like to reach out to different instructors in the Magic Valley and come and just kind of get, just have a place to practice, arrange to practice on, and I'll go through some stuff with them, see if they exactly what they need to work on, tighten up any fundamentals. That's what I was asked to do, is tighten up any fundamentals, and then maybe put them through like a little shooting course type of situation. So I'm looking forward to that. Be something different. I have approached a local school last year, actually, about helping out in the training of their teachers, some of their teachers that they want to allow to carry a gun. And I have put out a kind of a bid for that, a criteria of what we would, based on their policies, what they want to have happen. And I have put my spin on that, and I have presented that and what it would cost them. I presented that to them last year. So I'm waiting to hear back. I believe they will be revisiting that actually this month, now that they got the new budget out for the year and all this other stuff. So fingers crossed. That would be pretty amazing, actually, for my little business here. So we got that coming up, possibly. Another permit class next month. I mean, this month just started. Another permit class next month, and then just odds and ends in between, private instruction classes and whatnot. So kind of look forward to that. Trying to stay as busy as I can. I know all the kiddos are going back to school in a couple weeks, so hopefully some stuff will pick up. And then, like usual, I have got my men's and women's shooting academies along with the elite group. In fact, the elite group, or at least some of the elite group, will be here tonight. So yeah, kind of looking forward to all that. It's the same old stuff. So stories, things that I want to talk about. First of all, this might be kind of a nutty take, but I don't know. It's been pointed out quite a bit. I'm not the only person that saw it, but I am going to call it out. That mass stabbing at a Walmart in Michigan last week. It got talked about quite a bit. In fact, there's a lot of shootings and stuff we could go into. I'm not going to, but we're going to look at this mass stabbing. because there was a gentleman. He was, I believe, some kind of vet. I don't know if he's like a Marine vet. I think he was a Marine veteran. He had a firearm, and then there's about five or six other guys, and they put an end to this guy that stabbed like 11 or 12 people, like in this Michigan Walmart. This crazy homeless dude, I believe. And good. I'm so glad that people intervened. I'm glad that everyone jumped up to intervene and to stop this gentleman. The Marine veteran, I'm glad he was there that day with his firearm. I really am. And I'm glad everything worked out. But the first thing that caught my eye was when I saw that video was the way the gentleman was holding his gun. He was holding it in full gangster mode. It wasn't straight up. It wasn't like it was supposed to be. It wasn't cocked to the side like might be okay. This sucker was laid over on its side, and he was holding it like a straight up Blood and Crips gang member. Like, it was wild. And not only did he have it to the side like that, but he had his other hand over the top of the slide. I'm really not sure. Again, he carried his gun. He was there. He's able to intervene when he needed. He saved lives. I get that. But I'm not sure why he thought that was a good way to hold that gun, grip that gun, put your hand over the slide. That's wild. That was wild to me. And I had some people say, oh, maybe he just was transitioning. And no, he was walking through the parking lot toward that gentleman holding the gun that way. And I'm pretty glad. I'm glad he didn't have to press that trigger. And I want to point this out. And this is me discounting veterans again. Once again, that's what everyone says. This is just you discounting veterans. I'm not. They have their place, but that doesn't mean they know what they're doing with a handgun. That doesn't mean anybody knows what they're doing with a handgun. Obviously, if you're going to grip the gun that way, some training was needed. And so that's just a reminder to everyone that even these Marine vets, training is very helpful. Know how to use your gun. You're going to carry a gun. It's much more than just knowing how to load it and occasionally put a round through it on a static position at the range. Like, you need to know how to draw. You need to know how to get that first initial grip. All that stuff. You've got to know how to do that. It just doesn't come naturally. You've got to learn it. You got to be trained in that situation. So let's just look at that. And then let's also look at the fact that, and this is just me, I guess, using one guy to judge them all, too. But one of the big calls, since I were just talking about going and teaching stuff like this to people who want to carry at schools, right? One of the answers to keeping the schools safe, people talk about putting vets. The vets will go. The vets will volunteer their time, and they will show up, and they will do what they need to do, and they will protect those schools. That's what we need to do. Wrong. First of all, we saw what happened. We saw what a vet would do, okay, how he would hold his pistol. Granted, at the schools, they might have rifles, but there's just so many things, I mean, that could go wrong with that. Is as far as the mental capacity, the PTSD that might follow. Not all vets are good people, but they'd like to let you know that they're veterans. They'd like to let you know that they served, but maybe they didn't do anything, or they just weren't good at their job. Like, that's a thing. We got to just quit assuming that all these veterans who want to go and protect the schools and are so good. And I'm kind of the news was focused on this this Marine vet that did this, right? I think it was a Marine, but we'll say military vet that did this. They were focused on him. Military vet saves it. Dude, there's 5 other people there that were unarmed, as far as we know, that put their lives on the line as well. Because obviously the Yahoo with the gun, gripping it gangster style with his support hand clamped right over the top of the slide in the ejection port, wasn't going to get much done had he had to pull that trigger. So let's just focus on the other guys too. Everyone, they work together somewhat as a team to do this. It's just wild to me. He's a veteran, so he's got godlike status, I suppose. I don't know. I hate that. I really really bothers me. So now that I've pissed off everyone sufficiently, let's move on to this. Let's move on to the trigger press. I'm not going to just go into detail how to press the trigger. That's not really what I'm doing today, but it's something that I teach here. When to actually put your finger on the trigger. It's something I teach here, and I've explained it before, but I'm going to go over it again so you will understand it, okay? And then we have to talk. I'm going to tell you what I teach here, then I'm going to tell you what I've come up against, or one of my students came up against, and then I want to tell you my explanation for this. And it kind of covers a lot of things. So one of the, we have the safety rules here. Don't put your finger on the trigger till you're ready to fire the gun. Don't put the trigger, your finger on the trigger till you're ready to fire the gun. I totally get that. I stand behind that. That is a safety rule. Well, when I teach someone how to draw the gun and get on the target effectively and quickly and be able to defend themselves from an attacker, I teach, and I don't teach this right off the get-go, but I will teach someone how to put their finger on the trigger, take up the slack as they drive the gun out. And I do that a couple different ways. First of all, I will teach, you got to learn how to acquire the sights. You got to learn how to acquire the sights on a target. So we'll take the gun. We'll keep our finger off the trigger. We'll take our gun, and this is really effective too if you're shooting an optic of some kind, because it teaches you how to acquire that dot every time. You take that gun, you get the two-handed grip, you bring it back to your chest. It's level, it's perpendicular, it's for, your chest pointing at the target, and you're going to drive it out. You're not going to bowl with it, which is bringing the gun down in a swooping motion and back up past the target and settle back down, and you're not going to fish, which is essentially the reverse. It goes up and over in an arcing motion up above. The barrel goes down past the bullseye or the target and comes back up on said target. We don't want to bowl. We don't want to fish. We want to drive the gun straight out. So as soon as those sights come up, or we can acquire the sights, the front and the rear, or the red dot on that target, we're ready to press that trigger. So we start by driving out, acquiring the sights, and then giving a nice dry fire. Bring it back. When you do this dry, unloaded gun, you can do it with a loaded gun, and you do it over and over and over again. Drive it out, acquire the sights, give a nice dry fire. Nice dry fire meaning what? That nice dry fire, that nice trigger press, meaning that you're not jerking the trigger, you're not flinching, you're not disrupting the sights or the red dot, you're not moving the gun, and you're still able to take that really nice, accurate trigger press, or that trigger press is going to be nice and accurate. So we teach that. Once they get that dialed in, and I think they're pretty proficient at that, then we do the same thing, but now starting at our chest with the gun pointing downrange at the target, we place our finger on the trigger. As we drive out, we're going to take up the slack. A lot of the times what we do is we start at the wall, right? We drive out, we're adding pressure. We're not firing the gun. We're adding pressure. Those sights, you drive them out, you acquire those sights, and you break the shot. Because you've taken up the slack and you've applied enough pressure, you're just finishing off that press. Finishing off that just the slightest bit of pressure to take that shot, right? We call that good trigger control. I call that good trigger control. Trigger control is keeping your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot the gun. I get it. But trigger control, or good trigger press control, whatever you want to call it, is also being able to apply enough pressure to that trigger to either take the shot but also being able to not take the shot and hold it right there if you don't have to shoot, right? And so we bring it back to our chest perpendicular. We drive it out, and as your arm goes out, those muscles extend out. Your arm extends out. You're adding pressure to the point where when you acquire the sights and you just finish off that press. Now, you're not finishing off the trigger press halfway out. Your arm's fully extended, but it's a timing thing, right? It's a timing thing. You learn how to neuromuscular timing, or whatever the hell you want to call it. You're driving out. Now, you're not, if you haven't acquired the sights, you're not taking the shot. Obviously, you're not taking the dry fire. But that's how we do it. We do that dry, then we do it live fire. Now, essentially, if you've ever learned how to draw said firearm, that is the last half of the draw, the second part of the draw. If you learn the draw in steps, that is going to be 4, 5, and 6. Step 4, 5, and 6. So it's this draw is a 6-step process. That's 4, 5, and 6. That's the last half of the draw. So we kind of teach the draw backwards a little bit. Once they learn that, we teach them the other part of the draw. You know, get that grip, get it up out of the holster, drop it. And as soon as they get it up out of the holster and they drop that elbow and they point that gun directly at said threat or target, I teach them to put their finger on the trigger. Right there. You put that finger on the trigger. The gun is pointed downrange at the target, at the threat, whatever. Join up with your support hand and then drive it out. And it's the same thing. Adding pressure till we take the shot or we don't take the shot. You have to have that much control over it. And why do I teach that? Because I've posted this before. People are like, oh, you got their finger. You know, we always got those guys online. Oh, they got their finger on the trigger. They got their finger. Well, yeah, because, dummy, I told them to. And let me tell you why. Well, that just seems ridiculous. Well, then you're not a good enough damn shooter. You don't have, what are you, freaking mag dumper is what you are. You're not a good enough shooter to be able to control and fine-tune that trigger press. And that's what this is all about here, is having the motor skills acquired to be able to control those little fast twitch muscles and being able to control when you take the shot or not. Okay? So you mouth breathing mag dumper, just freaking quit it. Okay, so I teach that. And I've caught a lot of heat for that. People don't understand it, but they're starting to. Because let me tell you what happened. I taught a student that. Him and his wife. Okay, he went to another class, like a training type of deal for his church. And I'm not picking on anyone here. No one did anything wrong here. And I just want to tell you the difference. He went to a training thing for his church. Okay? And he was doing that in class. And the instructor came and said, no, what are you doing? Why'd your finger on the trigger? You don't want to accidentally shoot that gun when you're not supposed to. And there's nothing wrong with the instructor saying that. It's his class. He can say what he wants. And he went through the class, and he struggled a little bit because he was used to doing it my way, and he kind of had to like retrain himself. And his wife came back because she was taking some more classes and said, hey, so he said this, and this is what they told him. And he's just kind of like wondering, like, okay, he's heard it both ways. Like, who is right here? And I said, well, we're both right. For what we're teaching, for the scenarios that we're teaching, we are both right. I teach from the perspective of concealed carry. You're in town. Someone is rushing at you. Someone has a knife, has a gun. They're coming towards you, right? So you're going to do what? You're going to need to draw that gun. You need to draw that gun, grip it, draw it, drop that elbow. You need to be able to engage if you have to before the gun is completely extended out. Like you point that barrel. You need to be engaged, be able to engage the threat or the target, let's say the threat, while you drive that gun out and you're moving backwards away from it, trying to create that distance, right? You don't want to just drive that gun out like real quick because he's going to do what? He's going to knock it out of the way, or maybe he's too close, right? Or you need to be able to be ready to engage, even if you're not going to engage, if he's not that close. Drive it out, but he's like going to be maybe right off the end of your gun by the time you finish driving out. You can take that shot instead of just, put my finger on the trigger real quick, take that shot. That's time wasted. Okay. So in my situation, what I was training for, that is how you do it. That is how I teach it. Now, in a different setting, let's say a church, right? And this could work in other scenarios that I teach too, but for the personal defense, it is not. But like in a church, what if you're in a church? You're sitting in one of the pews. The other, maybe kind of diagonal from you, in the other corner, someone barges in or someone stands up and they have a gun. And they are across the chapel, across the worship area, whatever. And there's people between you and them. Of course, if you have your gun, you're not going to want to stand up, draw your gun, and immediately put your finger on that trigger and drive out. There's no reason to. One of the reasons you don't want to do it is because even though you should have complete control over the trigger, you're not going to shoot from a distance like that unless you have acquired your sights, acquired your dot really, really well, because maybe there's 40 yards. Maybe there's 30 or 40 yards between you and the threat, right? And you can't risk. There might be other parishioners, other churchgoers between you and that target. And you can't afford touching that trigger off. It's a bad thing. You kill someone on accident in a defensive situation, an innocent bystander, that's involuntary manslaughter, and you'll go to prison for that. So that would be a scenario where you need to drive the gun out, acquire your sights, acquire the target, and then press the shot. It's not up close and personal. You have distance there. Up close and personal, like I said, so you're in a parking lot. Someone's at you. They're right there. They're moving towards you really quickly. They're 10 yards away. They're 15 yards away. And they're closing that gap fast. Okay, that's where mine comes into play. Or they're on top of you. They're like right there. You might be using your left hand to smack them, to hit them, to force them back. That's where my comes into play. This is just another tool. Both of these, they're situationally dependent. They are another tool in the toolbox. And that's what people have to understand. There's not just one way of doing something it's going to cover all scenarios or all situations. That's just not going to happen. It's that tool in the toolbox. And I know I want to explain that because someone will come to my class, learn it this way, go, well, this guy said that. Well, he's wrong. Well, he's wrong. He shouldn't teach you that. And it's not that the student is saying that. It's that the other instructor is saying that. There's a reason for it. If you're in someone else's class and they're telling you to do something and they want, do it. Do what they say and think about it. Maybe ask them to explain it. You should always explain something. So an instructor should always explain to you as to why you're doing something. Like I said, it's situationally dependent. Just know that. And that's why you take classes. That's why you go to other instructors. And no one gave me a hard time about this. I just wanted to get out there and kind of point it out because some people look at me like I'm crazy. And I've had my fair share of online. You're just dumb. That's stupid. You shouldn't do that. Blah, blah, blah. You're trying to get someone killed. No, I'm not. It's situationally dependent. So shut your mouth, you mouth-breathing mag dumper. That's what I'm going to call you. You mouth-breathing mag dumper. But anyhow, that's kind of what I wanted to rant about today. It's situationally dependent. Now, what I teach, that finger on that trigger real quick. For example, what if you're in the Walmart? What if someone is a long ways away? What if someone isn't coming at you? They're just randomly picking off people. And you're right there. You're hiding behind the table full of cantaloupes, and you're like, man, I've got this. Do you need to draw super, super duper fast, put your finger on the trigger right away from 40 yards away? No, you don't. You're hiding behind the freaking cantaloupes. Like you got time. Draw the gun, get the sights, make sure it's clear, make sure no one's going to run in between you and him. Right? Take a rest. Put your finger on the trigger. Press that shot out. Okay? That you got to know. So the thinking part of it is knowing what you've learned from instructor A and instructor B and instructor C and instructor D and all those classes you put together, and being able to decide in the moment which one you need to use, but you need to be proficient with all of them, right? That is the key to training. That is the key to being prepared. That is the thinking portion of it. Being smart enough and bright enough and intellectual enough to be able to, in seconds, decide really quick which one of those situations, or what your specific situation calls for, which one of those training those trainings that you went to, what fits that, right? That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. So there you go. There's my 2 cents. Love it or leave it. I don't, whatever. Take it how you will. But if you enjoyed the podcast, I do appreciate you listening. Share it with your family, share it with friends, share it on social media. I know some people do, most people do not, and that is fine. Just listen. I show up here occasionally and spout some nonsense and into this microphone here for your enjoyment. I will talk to you later. Bye.